number 5 was correct, which we got D for. And we said from number 5 that the conversation between Julius and Dan served mainly to establish why Julius's story was so widely accepted around the town. So D, so 47 through 49, let's see, 59, 87. Nevertheless, in view of Julius's circumstantial statements, the amazing news must be true, and Dan was instantly agog to carry it further. Julius watched Dan and the gray mare out of sight. So that lines 47 through 49 essentially are coming at the end of Julius's and Dan's conversation, and it basically sums it up. So right before, so a word like nevertheless is really important to pay attention to, because it's telling you a few things. Nevertheless, it's basically saying that it's acknowledging that you might want to believe one thing, but nevertheless, however, this other thing is still true. So what it's referring to in this instance is that you can look at the lines that come before it. So the lines that come before it, it's talking about how Adelia Williams and young Thomas, they weren't well acquainted, meaning they didn't know each other, and their families, that is the Everetts and the Williamses, had never really been friendly. So that would lead you to believe that they would not be people who would be engaged to get married. But nevertheless, in view of Julius's circumstantial statements, meaning because of Julius's statements, the amazing news must be true. Or in other words, because of the conversation between Julius and Dan, the amazing news must be true. So that's essentially telling you that the purpose of that conversation was to explain why the town bought that story. So D for number 6. Moving on, number 7, in the passage, Dan is characterized as someone who is, and the answer is honest. So the passage states that Dan has a reputation for veracity, which is another way to say honesty. If you weren't familiar with that word, I always suggest in a little notebook. I think you should keep a notebook as opposed to like a binder with loose leaf paper, because loose leaf paper, in my experience, can get lost. But you do what you're comfortable with, whatever works for you. You might be a more organized teenager than I was. So veracity, veracity. It means like truthfulness, basically. So if you weren't sure what that word means, I would definitely recommend to write it down. The more you work on your vocabulary, the better you will be with this test, as well as in college and in life. So definitely keep make a small effort to write down words you're not familiar with. So this answer also refers back to number 4, the problem number 4, that is, where it asks about, go right to it. Number 4, as used in line 17, veracity most nearly means, and B was the answer, truthfulness. So that is actually connected to number 7. So moving on, number 8, if you have any questions about these, you can email me. All right, so which choice best provides the evidence for the answer to the previous question? And here the answer is A. So we can go. So that's lines 15 through 18. We can zoom there real quick. So 15, lines 15 through 18. And remember, we're wondering about veracity and Dan and all that stuff, just to remind you what we're looking for. Dan was a young man who took life and himself very seriously. He seldom smiled, never joked, and had a Washingtonian reputation for veracity. Dan had never told a conscious falsehood in his life. He had never even exaggerated. So the answer choice says, yeah, lines 15 through 18. I'm just making sure. So we had discussed before how Washingtonian reputation, that's referring to George Washington, who was known to never tell a lie. Now, whether that's true or not, that's just the saying that goes with George Washington. So if you weren't familiar with that saying, you could see the meaning for veracity in the next sentence where it says, Dan had never told a conscious falsehood. So conscious falsehood meaning a falsehood is a lie. So he had never knowingly told a lie. That's what conscious is referring to. In his life, he never even exaggerated. So someone who never even exaggerates, exaggerating is a little bit of a lie, a tiny one. Exaggerating, so if he doesn't even exaggerate, he definitely doesn't lie. So that is telling you what veracity means. Number 9. Lines 53 through 54 serve mainly to, let's look at lines 53 through 54. Boop, 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 boop. Alrighty, 51, 2, 3, right here. At this point, Julius and Danny drop out of our story and young Thomas enters. So those lines serve to transition from the conversation between Jan and Julius concerning young Thomas to the depiction of young Thomas dealing with the rumors. Let me show you the answer choices. So that is answer D. So it's not answer A. A may be tempting, which says introduce a new character and setting to the story. It's not answer A because if you recall, which you might not because this is a long, something like dry like this sometimes seems longer than it is. If you recall, they actually introduced Thomas right here. So at that point, in lines 53 through 54, young Thomas or Thomas is not a new character. He was already introduced in line 9. So that's why A is incorrect. I just wanted to point that out. I'm not going to go through all of the ones that are why they're incorrect because, for the sake of time, but I just wanted to show that because I feel like that is a tempting one to choose. Okay, going to number 10. Eben's comments in lines 62 through 66, beginning ending in wife, primarily indicate that he, let's look at 62 and 66. 62 and 66, right here. Alrighty, so 60, 61, 62. Alrighty, Eben grinned broadly. You can't bluff it off like that, Tom, he said. The news came too straight this time. Well, I was glad to hear it, although I was mighty surprised. I never thought of you and Adelia. She's a fine little woman and will make you a capital wife. So this answer is C. Let's go back to the answers. C, A is incorrect because disagree strongly. That wasn't what Eben was saying. It didn't sound like he disagreed with him strongly. He sounded like he was kind of like, I don't think you're telling the truth. A strong disagreement would use more strong language. That's why A is wrong. B finds the rumor to be funny. He didn't express that it was funny. So that wasn't like a humorous, he didn't say anything that would make you think it was humorous. C is the correct answer here. He believes Thomas is lying. A key word here is you can't bluff. And that kind of reminds you of poker, poker, like a poker bluff. I think I put this in the email. That's kind of a lie. You're trying to hide why, you're trying to hide your face so people don't know, So Eben thinks that Tom is bluffing, which is another way to say lie. It's a lot of synonyms for lying in this passage, I'm realizing. D, feels unsurprised by the match. D is incorrect because he literally said, well, I was glad to hear it, although I was mighty surprised. So right there, he says he was surprised. So he can't be, oops, sorry. He was surprised, so he can't be unsurprised. So D is like blatantly wrong. All right, we're on our last one, then we're gonna move to math. Okay, it can be inferred that Tom is, quote, in something of a temper, end quote, because he so the answer here is C, that he is agitated, that he is the subject of a rumor. So we can go to the last paragraph, I believe. Yes, here we go. Well, let me look at the other answers. So A, feels exasperated by Julius's tendency to gossip. He doesn't know that Julius started the rumor, so that's, you can cross out A because he doesn't know. B, believes Adelia doesn't want to marry him. C is agitated. We know that's the correct answer. D, has too many errands to run in Valley View. D is incorrect because he never complained about his errands. Although I guess it is inferring that he has a lot of errands, but he never complained about them. We're trying to figure out why he's in, quote, something of a temper. So that means he's annoyed or agitated or something like that. Young Thomas, this is the last paragraph. Young Thomas grunted away and drove away. So it goes off, pardon me, describing his errands. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. He says, in the end, it rather annoyed young Thomas. He drove home at last in what was for him something of a temper. So you always want to try to go to the direct quote that the question is referring to. Usually they'll tell you like where the line, what line it's in. This time they didn't. But if you know it's like a direct quote, if it's in quotation marks like that, it's probably going to be a direct quote from the passage, and you want to look right at where it is. Pardon me. To refer to get the right answer. So he drove home at last in what was for him something of a temper. How on earth had that full story started? So that line, how on earth had that full story started? That actually tells us that A is incorrect again, because that shows that he didn't know that Julius started the rumor, because he's wondering how did it get started. All right, continuing. With such detailed circumstantiality of rugs and quilts too, Adelia Williams must be going to marry somebody, and the Valley View gossips, unable to locate the man, had guessed young Thomas. So he even believes she's getting married, but he's just like, it's not me. So B is disproved here because he never said that he didn't think Adelia wanted to marry him. He just knew that it wasn't him because, you know, he would know if he was engaged to someone. Okay, so done with that. Now, we're going to do math, get started with math. And again, what I was saying in regards to deciphering the test, breaking things down, understanding what's on the test, what they're going to, you know, test you on, of course, still applies to math. So the math focuses on 3 areas. So you have 3 big chunks. You have heart of algebra. Can you click these links? Yes, you can click these links if you're interested in reading more from the source. I took these from the College Board website, so you know the people who make the test. So feel free to go and read more so you can have a better understanding of what's going to be on there. My throat is a little dry. Give me 1 second. Excuse me. So, heart of algebra, which is, I think, more like Algebra 1 and stuff like that for the most part. Problem solving and data analysis. I think that's getting into Algebra 2 and things. Passport to advanced math. Well, that's advanced math. That's different things. it's got, kind of got a mix. It says in math test also draws on additional topics in math, which may include geometry and trigonometry that are relevant to college classes. Again, feel free to click it and go see for yourself. So most of the math problems are going to be multiple choice. Some are grid in questions, meaning you have to just come up with the answer yourself and write it in the blank. You can read more about that. It's all here. It shows you about the gridding in answers. This is just to, again, prepare you for what you'll see so you feel very familiar with it. Has little pictures and stuff, diagram of what it'll look like. Okay, I forgot to delete those. Obviously, I took this from Kaplan. So, what's on the math section? So, the math section are the third and fourth sections. During the first 25 minutes math section, you are not allowed to use a calculator. During the next 55-minute math section, you are allowed to use your calculator. That's important to remember because you do definitely want to try to practice. When you're practicing at home, pay attention to whether it says you can use a calculator or not, so that before you take the test, you become familiar and comfortable with calculating things in your head. A lot of times I feel from what I've seen, the ones where you cannot use a calculator, it would actually hinder you to try to use one anyway. But sometimes you do have to know shortcuts in multiplying and division and stuff like that. So if you definitely try to practice doing math without a calculator when you're practicing at home. Okay, so this is giving you a breakdown of no calculator, 50 multiple choice, 5 grid-ins. Grid-ins is where you come up with your own response. It gives you the time. Feel free to look at that more on your own time. Okay, math content. Again, this is a breakdown of the type of questions. We already mentioned the breakdown of the type of problems that will be in there. Heart of algebra, problem solving, passport to advanced math, additional topics. And this gives you a breakdown of about how many questions from each section there will be. And this is a little description. So these are basically kind of equally distributed apart from the additional topics in math. So you definitely want to try to practice. I mean, Heart of Algebra luckily has a couple more questions, but the harder ones are about the same number. So you definitely want to, diversify your practicing. Here's a tip, pace yourself. So if something's taking you a long time to figure out, put down something and move on, because they're all worth the same amount of points, which is like 1 point or whatever, however the point breakdown is. They're all worth the same amount of points. And just put something down, even if it's a complete guess, because you might get lucky. And you're not penalized for getting things wrong. They only count the correct answers. So keep that in mind. Running out of time, which you guys will practice, so you won't be running out of time. But if you are running out of time, or if you are not sure, I'll have a chat. Okay, so I will note to myself. So I took some problems from Khan Academy, and they're from each section, just about should be. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you guys a few minutes to work these out. Did anyone have trouble opening the Google Doc? for this? Put it in the chat or say something.
No.
Everyone's good. Okay. So, all right, 1 second. Isaac, you didn't send the link? All right, let me send the link. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. OG. Your initials are OG. That's funny. I like that. So I'm going to send you, I've noticed that when people come in after I send the thing, people can't see it. I just sent the link to it. So we're gonna take like 5 minutes. Isaac, what do you think? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
Do about 5 minutes. That's fine. 5 minutes is fine.
5. Okay. We're gonna take 5 minutes.
How many problems is it?
Isaac, what'd you say?
How many problems are you assigning?
Well, however many y'all can do in 5. I have about 10 up here though. I believe 9, which is about 10. I have like 9 problems here.
The first three.
So maybe do
the first 3 problems. The first 3 problems.
Okay, try to do the first 3 problems and we'll reconvene after 5 minutes. OG, were you able to open the Google Doc?
Yes, thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, so we will reconvene at like 3:21. Oh, let me share my screen again, sorry. All righty, 3:21.
Excuse me? You said the first three problems?
Yeah, the first three, fine.
So we stop at the one where it says C, right? C equals 2.
2. Yeah. So you can do the C. So the C equals 290 plus 155H should be the last one you do.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
No problem. Yes.
Use the eraser to erase it, or you can click the top. So there's on the pen, there's a bottom little clicker and the top clicker. The top clicker should be erasing and the bottom one should be writing.
I see. Let's make that eraser thicker though. All right, cool. Thank you.
All right. You need anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, cool.
All right, thanks. All right. Okay. So I'm actually going to switch over to another computer because Isaac just helped me set up my tablet because he's fabulous and nice. So this will be more, it'll be better for math problems. Okay, 1 second while I share screen. Okay. Okay. Okay, so let me get my list out and I'm going to just ask someone to help me answer. So, AH, could you tell me what you got for this?
I got 4 equals D.
4 equals D. Yes. Let me just pull something up very quickly before I go into the next part. All right, H, how did you get D?
The first thing I did was I added 7 to 41 because, do that. And then I divided 12 from both sides and I got 4 equals D.
Okay, so Let me do it this way. So I'm using new technology, so I'm trying to figure out. So
The 41 is equal to, okay, you got it.
yeah, thank you. You said you subtracted.
I added 7
Why did you add 7?
because when you do, okay, so I don't know, explain it, but like in algebra, you pretty much have to, if you're trying to bring something to the other side, you do the opposite of it.
That's exactly right. So, and I like how you said the other side. When speaking of algebra, it's the other side of the equal sign. Let's see. Okay, so that would be 48 equals 12D, and AH divided both sides by 12 to get rid of this 12 so that we could find out what D is, and got 4 equals D. So one thing to remember with math is that I like to think of it as basically it's like another language essentially. Well, not another language, it's a language that describes things that you already know. So the is, or rather the equal sign is the same as saying is. So when you look at 41 equals 12D, sorry if that looks funky, 41 equals 12D minus 7 is the same thing as saying 41 is 12D minus 7. So it's important to, this is a somewhat simple math problem. And I mean, if you're not used to algebra, it won't be simple. So I'm not saying that you should know this if it's confused you, but because we're all at different levels. But I only say it's somewhat simple because the SAT math questions definitely get harder than this, but they involve the same principles. And one of the most important things to remember with math is, pardon me, is what the equal sign is saying. Not just what the equal sign is saying, but also paying attention to the movement of numbers in relation to the equal sign. So the movement of numbers or variables, whatever. Variables just means letters. Like here, D is the letter or the variable. So if you move something from this side of the equal sign to the other, from the right side to the left side, then you're going to want to make sure to whatever you did to this left side by moving this number over here, you want to do to the right side. And that's because you still want this equal sign to be true. If you don't do the same thing on both sides, the equal sign will cease to be true. So then you're going to have a false statement and you're going to, let me erase this. So The next problem is so that was D equals 4. $6,000 equals BU plus 4,000. Okay. And this is still within the heart of algebra section. Okay, so, oh, what is this not? So the question says, given the above equation with constant b, what is the value of 6? Oops. Sorry. Whatever. It's not erasing for some reason. Oh, there it goes. All right. Okay, what is the value of 600,000? Sorry, I don't know why this isn't writing. Okay. $100 BU plus 400,000. Okay, and the answer it says is in million. I'm not gonna go back to that to that screen. But okay, so it told us that B is a constant. And what that means is that it doesn't change. So this follows the same, I guess, logic of the other one. It's kind of somewhat of a basic algebra problem, but it's presented somewhat differently. So AH, you helped me with the last one. So let's see, who else? DM, can you tell me what you got for this?
I'm not really sure, but I did get 1,200,000.
That's right. The only thing is so it is 1,200,000. But how would you put that if you just wanted to say million?
1.2.
Yep, 1.2 million. That's right.
Okay.
So how you do this is it's asking us what this equals, this other expression. Again, it's giving us this equation up here to help us figure out what BU equals. It says the constant is B, but well, I mean, that kind of is a little trick, kind of like a trick, because you don't really need to know that information. You don't really need to know that B is a constant. And the reason you don't need to know is because here BU is presented, well, B is with you. B is with you. B is with you. So, and down here, B is with you as well. So you can keep those two things as one unit. Yes, exactly. It is redundant. So that's another thing to pay attention to. this goes for reading problems as well. Look at what the question is actually asking, not necessarily what you think it should be asking or what you think they want you to answer. So B is a constant, U might be a variable, but we can look at these as just one number. Since they're multiplied together here, they're multiplied together here, it's the same number because it's the same, they're the same letters within this, within these equations. So to figure out what 600,000 plus 100 BU plus 400,000 is, we have to figure out what BU is. And we have a clue as to what BU is from this equation up here. Because all we have to do is do the opposite of this. And that is because we want to, oh my goodness, Cortana. We want to isolate, the numbers BU so we can figure out what it is. We want to get it to one side of the equal sign because we're trying to figure out what BU is. BU equals is the same as saying BU is. So, yeah, so following this 4,000 got erased a little bit, sorry. So we have, sorry, it's quicker to do that than the erase. 2,000 equals BU. So 2,000 equals BU. So looking at the original, not the original, but the question it's asking, once you figure out that, you can plug it in. So we know that we can go ahead and add 6 plus 4 is 10. So we already know that's a million. And then when you multiply by tens, say tens, hundreds, thousands, you just add however many zeros to whatever you're multiplying by. So we're multiplying by 2,000 here. So I'm going to add 1, 2 zeros, 1, 2. So that turns into 200,000. So like DM said, it's 1,200,000. Since it's asking, the question is asking for the answer in millions, I'm just going to put 1.2 million. So I want to say too that should have said this a little earlier, but I was a little preoccupied with getting my new little technology. I've never used this before, this little tablet. And Isaac was getting me set up, so forgot to mention this. But again, we're all at different levels, so it's important to mention. But oops, some things you always want to keep in mind when you are doing math, and this might be basic for some people, but it's important to remember basic things as you get into the more complicated math, because you'll be able to fall back onto back onto the foundation when you're lost, and it'll help you get the right answer. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So one thing a couple of things to remember is the equal sign. The equal sign, we already mentioned that. This is in writing, 1 second. Sorry, isn't writing. There we go. So the equal sign is important. It's the same thing as saying is. So if you're having trouble with some of the math, or I would just say to do this at first when you're practicing, even if you feel like you're familiar, you can restate questions by kind of rephrasing the math problem by replacing the equal sign with is. Also important to remember is Pemdas. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. This is telling you the order of operations, meaning if you have a crazy looking math problem that has parentheses and exponents and multiplication and all, like basically everything, this is telling you the order to go in. So if you're confused about how to start a problem, again, these are somewhat more simple algebra problems right now, but as you progress into the harder stuff, which the SAT definitely has, you want to fall back on math basics to try to take it one step at a time and get to the correct answer, basically. And you'll be surprised that some of the math problems that seem very complicated, if you just try to follow exactly what it's asking you and fall back on the math basics, then you'll be fine. So C equals 290 plus 155H. With this one, okay, so actually, let's see. Let's see if this works. Oh, that works. Sorry. Being goofy. Okay, that kind of floats. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, so we can kind of, as I said with, hold on one second. Okay, anyway. As I said with, okay. So I'm reading a message. Okay, as I said with looking at is a certain way, or looking at the equal sign, meaning is, when you have these kind of problems, like the word problems, sometimes it's helpful to write down what, kind of rewrite it as I had mentioned. So it says C equals 290 plus 155H. A team of painters is hired to paint the exterior of a museum. The total cost C in dollars incurred by the museum for H hours of painting is given by the equation above. What is the best interpretation of 155 in the equation? So what we're trying to figure out is, what does the number 155 stand for? So Miriam, what did you get for this? Miriam with a Y, sorry. That's just the order I have it written down.
I got C. Can you hear me?
Barely. I have to turn my volume up 1 second. Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, I got C.
You got C.
Yeah.
And C is, hold on, I'm getting a chat problem. Chat question. Sorry guys, I'm a little distracted. I have two computers with different things going on. I apologize. But I'm gonna get it together. So, each additional. Yes, it is C. Can you tell us how you got there?
Yeah, so it says that total cost is C, C, which is in dollars, and then H would be the hours, and so it doesn't mean, sorry, so H would be the hours, so then 290 would be like the base price, and then since you're multiplying 155 by H, it would be like the cost per each hour. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Problem.
Awesome. So the answer is C. And for these kind of problems, it's helpful to restate. If you're not super familiar with doing word problems, I would suggest restating things in a way that you understand on your paper, your scratch paper that you're doing stuff with. By that I mean, I see, okay, C equals 290 plus 155H. Okay, cool. So I'm going to skip around a little bit. It says the total cost C in dollars. So that means C equals cost, dollars. Okay, incurred by the museum for H hours. So right there, it gave me another thing. And it's kind of like we're creating a legend here. So, or a key, like when you look at maps and stuff. So H equals hours. So incurred by the museum for H hours of painting is given by the equation above. What is the best interpretation of 155 in the equation? So the only thing this breaks down for us, the little, well, the question is that C equals the cost, H equals the hours. So if this whole equation, 290 equals 150, oops, wrote the wrong thing, sorry. That just erases everything. So, hours, sorry. So 290 plus 155H equals the cost, the total cost. And we know that H is hours. So that means that this whole thing, if we know it means it equals C, which is the cost, which is in money. So this whole thing that we're looking at is money. It's going to be some dollar amount. We know that 155 is being multiplied by H, and we know that H is hours. But since we know this whole equation, 290 plus 155H equals cost, which means it equals dollars, we know that this whole thing together is going to sum up into dollars. Sorry if I'm being redundant, but I'm just trying to make sure that the point is made. So even though H equals hours, it's going to be converted by being multiplied by 155 into dollars. So we look at answer choice A. We know that can't be true because it says the total cost can be at most 155. No, you have 290 plus 155, and 155 is multiplied by H, so that just doesn't even make sense. Especially when we know the whole thing, this whole equation is equal to the entire cost. So then B, it says that 155 is, it takes the team 155 hours to paint the exterior. We know that's wrong because H is hours. So if H is hours, you wouldn't multiply hours by itself. It would, yeah, so like trying to think of another way to say that, but I feel like that's the simplest way to say it. If 155 represented the hours, you wouldn't be multiplying it by H, you would just incorporate it into what H represents. C is each additional hour of painting the exterior costs 155, that is the correct answer. D, 155 is the base cost regardless of how many hours it takes to paint the exterior. This is exactly the wrong answer. This is the opposite of the correct answer because we know that H is hours and it's being multiplied by 155. And we know that this whole thing all together, that is 290 plus 155H is going to be the cost. It's going to be in dollar amounts. So, and 155H can't be the base cost because 155 is being multiplied by H. It's being multiplied by a variable, which means that if it's being multiplied by a variable or a letter, what we call letters in algebra, they are standing in for a number we don't know yet. If 155 is being multiplied by a number we don't know yet, it could change. So that means it's not a base number. A base number is something that's constant, that's consistent, that doesn't change. The base number would be 290, as Miriam with the Y stated earlier. The answer is C.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you also look at this as like, this is a slope intercept formula, and you know that 155 would be like the slope. So you're trying to look for an answer that kind of matches that idea.
Yeah, I think you definitely could. You could change this into slope intercept form. You could say, oh, sorry, I'm still on eraser.
Y equals 155x plus 290.
Yep, and then what would the 290 be?
The base price.
Yep.
Or like the y-intercept.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to write it as you said. So we're just going to change this. Who just spoke? Sorry, I didn't see who spoke.
Juliana.
Juliana, thank you. As Juliana said, we're going to put this into slope intercept form. Slope intercept form, I don't feel like erasing, it's such a hassle. This is slope intercept form. This is the slope, M. This is X, of course. This is the y-intercept. The y-intercept means where the y-axis is intercepted, or where x equals 0. So if you put x equals 0 here, 0 times m would be 0, so y would equal b. So yes. Oh, I meant to write that with an x, sorry. So we see how 155 would be the slope. We have x already there, and this would be the intercept. Thank you, Juliana. I appreciate that. So that would be slope intercept form, actually. Okay. So, So we have a few more to do. I will give you guys. So the next 3 problems, and let's say like 5 minutes. So we'll come back here at like 4:01 actually. Okay, so do the first problem you'll do is the n equals 145y. The last one you'll do is where it says question 405, 2x plus 5, negative mx plus 9 equals 0. So, oops, sorry. 1, 2, 3. This is actually doing 2 sections. This first one you're going to do is still in interpreting linear functions. And that'll be the second one of that. And then you're going to do a couple questions from solving quadratic equations. So just trying to get a little taste of everything. Okay, so actually, let's come, because I was still talking, let's come back at 4:02. So 3 problems coming back at 4:02. I'll set my timer. Alrighty. So we are back at it. Oops, that's my other thing. 1 second. I think I accidentally X out of Paint. Oh, my cheekbone looks nice. Okay. All right. Where is the Zoom? Oh, here we are. Alrighty. Now, let me see who I shall call upon. Who is here? ML, could you help me? What did you get for n equals 145y plus 2007.88? ML? You can't turn on your mic? Okay, you can totally get it. I've been having little tech snafus too. You could tell me if you got A, B, C, or D. Okay. So that's okay. It's kind of a hard question. AV, can you help me with this question?
Yeah, so basically it's a slope intercept question. I mean, it's like a slope for y equals mx plus b.
Mhm.
So the question's asking what is 2788 like represent? And that would be B for boy, because that's the initial value right when it starts, which is on January 1st, 2000. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And that is exactly right. So I'm just getting my notes together. All over the place. Yes, it is. Sorry, reading a chat response. So AV was exactly correct. Just as Juliana had mentioned, this is in, you can look at it as slope intercept form. Goodness gracious, it's not working. 1 second, let me pull this over here. That's what we're gonna do. I will have this, tech together next time. It's the first time I'm using it live. Okay, so all right, so n equals 145y plus 2,788. Now, again, these letters I think AV and Juliana noticed, and perhaps some other of you as well. The letters, you can switch out letters at will. So even though this says n equals 145y, we could easily replace the n with a y and replace the y here with an x, as long as we're noticing, as long as we're staying consistent. When we look at that again, we see slope intercept form, meaning that you have y, which is a function of x. Function of x means that y's value is dependent on x, because y equals something times x, so it's dependent on x. So the slope would be 145. The y-intercept would be 2,788. Now with this, the number n of homes in a particular city y years after January 1st, 2000 is given by the equation above. What is the best interpretation of 2,788 as shown in the equation above? Even if you're not familiar with slope-intercept form, which is quite fine. Well, you should become familiar with it. But even if you don't realize that that is the form that this question is in, you could still look at the math problem as I had kind of mentioned before, which is to realize basically what the equation is saying and put it in kind of like simple English terms that we're all familiar with. So if n equals 145y plus 2,788, and then it goes on to say the number n of homes. So n is number of homes. And then it says y is after years after January 1st, 2000. So y equals years after January. I'm just gonna put January. So then we're left to figure out what is 2,788. So if we look at the equation, we know that, okay, again, kind of like the last one, 145y equals 2,000, oops, did the same mistake last time, sorry. Just erase that very quickly, all right. Okay, so 145y plus 2,788. All this whole unit of information equals or is the number of homes in a city after January 1st. So whatever 2,788 ends up being, we know that it's a part of the number of homes in a particular city blank years after January 1st. So if we know y is years, and number of homes. See, we're just stating this in a different way. I'm going to say is 145y plus 2,788 is the number of homes after January 1st, January 2000, whatever it was. So we know that y is years and y is being multiplied by 145. So if all of this together equals the number of homes after January 1st, 2000, then we can take this part of this piece of information, that is the 145y, we can take that to mean, since we know it's years, we can take that to mean that 145 is pardon me, the number of homes added per year. Because when you multiply something by another number, you're really saying per. So if that's like what the multiplication means, because at the end of the day, if these, another thing too, to keep in mind, this is just another tip to, again, I think you guys are understanding this for the most part, but having different ways to look at things that you're familiar with can help, again, when you're kind of stuck on something harder. So another way, we know that this number here, 2,788, it's going to be the number of homes. And we know that because, well, what was I saying? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What I meant to say was that since we know this whole expression, 145y plus 2,788 is the number of homes, and we're adding these two numbers together, that is 145y plus 2,788, these have to be like terms. That is 145y has to be kind of the same units as 2,788. Because if you remember, you can't really add things that are different units or have different variables attached. Like say, for example, this has nothing to do with this problem, but you can't add 4m plus 5y. You just have to keep that expression like that. You can't really do anything like it. You do anything with it, sorry. But what you can do is you can add like terms. So you can add 4m plus 5m. These are like the same units. So you get 9m. I say that to make the point that, oops, meant to erase it. I say that to make the point that we know, since the question is asking us what 2,788 is, we know that it has to be a number of home. It has to be a quantity dealing with the number of homes, because we know that this whole expression is dealing with the number of homes, and 145 is the number of homes added per year. So 2,788 has to be some number of homes. And since looking at it in a different way, back to the slope intercept form, oops, sorry. Y equals mx plus b, the b, or this the y-intercept is like the base number, kind of. When you're graphing, you can plot this first when you see it, and then plug the x in and for the other points on the graph too. Just a different way to look at things, and I wanted to say that because a couple of you had looked at the last two problems in that way. So, as AV had said, the correct answer is B, the number of homes in the city on January 1st. Because the question is asking how many homes were added after January 1st. So we're starting at January 1st, and then we're going past January 1st. So 145 times the years would tell us the new houses added since January 1st, but the number 2,788 tells us well, basically is the number of houses that were in this particular city on January 1st, the day that this count started. So the answer is B as in boy, as AV had said. So the next question. Okay, can I move over a little bit? Yes. All right, let me look at my list. Marliza, would you like to help me with this, please?
Okay. So I got 4 for the answer, and I can explain it if you want.
Yes, please.
Okay, so basically the first thing that I did was that, because when you have an equation like this,
Mhm.
where, it's like parentheses times parentheses.
Mhm.
It's basically saying for this particular problem, it's 2y minus 1 equals 0, because it's equal to 0, right? So you have to make both of them equal to 0. So what I did was 2y minus 1 equals 0. And then I put another equation, which was 8 minus y equals 0. So
and you said 8 minus y equals 0.
So basically, because you're looking for y, you have to isolate. So for the first one, it becomes 2y equals 1. And then you divide 2 to both sides. So that becomes y equals 1/2. So that is your first y. That could be u, right? U equals 1/2. And then for the second one, you isolate the variable, so that becomes negative y equals negative 8, which becomes y equals 8 ultimately. And then that's your other y. So that could be D, right? So the question is asking, what is U times D, which is what is the product of both y's. So that's basically saying what is 1/2 times 8. And so when you do that, that becomes, 4. So 8 over 2 equals 4 ultimately.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, the answer is 4. What were you about to say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just say you're welcome. Thank you for calling on me.
Thank you for sharing. That was a perfect explanation too.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So I like that, Marliza, you realize too that it doesn't really matter which one. So the question says let y equals u and let y equal d. It doesn't matter which one you solve for to get u or d, because at the end you're going to multiply them together anyway. So it would end up being the same answer. So let me erase this quickly. Perfect explanation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just to add, we have a few minutes left, just to add a little bit to that. The reason why you can set these equal to 0 is because, okay, when we have an equation and we see that it equals 0, we say we have two things. Well, let's say, I'll just rewrite it. If we have two things being multiplied by each other, and we know that it equals 0, one of them has to equal 0. It could be this one, or it could be this one. But one of them has to equal 0, because to get 0, you have to multiply by 0. That's just the only way you get it. So that means that theoretically, 2y minus 1 could equal 0, or 8 minus y, sorry, could equal 0. So that's why you set up those problems like that. Whenever you see 0 equals number A times number B number, whatever, you can set each of them to equal 0, each of whatever's in the parentheses, because when you see these parentheses 2y minus 1, that is just a way to say, that's basically saying a number I don't know. that whole expression 2y minus 1 that's inside this parentheses, that's saying a number I don't know, because the reason it's separated out is because of this y. But let's say that y equaled 1, and we inserted it here. That would be 2 times 1 minus 1. 2 times 1 is 2, minus 1 is 1. So if y equals 1, we can rewrite this in the parentheses as 1. So when you see parentheses like this, you can think of them, and there aren't like, you know, crazy exponents and different things. You can think of this whole unit as like one number. We just don't know exactly what the number is. So let me change this very quickly. I'm going to say, we'll move on to the next one in a second. The next one is similar to this, I believe. To make the point I was making earlier, I just needed more room. If 2y minus 1, if we're looking at that by itself and we say y equals 1, so then that means that this expression in the parentheses is 1. Well, let's rewrite the equation then. Let's rewrite this. 0 equals, okay, 1 times 8 minus y. Well, let's say if this number was 1, that is this expression within this parentheses. Oh, that looks crazy, sorry. If that equals 1, then what 8 minus y would have to equal 0 because we got 0 over here. So this would have to equal 0. So that's one way to look at it. Of course, it's not enough to, but yeah, that's just another way to look at it. I don't want to say more than that because I don't want to be confusing. Okay. Next one. Can AS help me, please?
For this question, I got m equals 6.
N equals 6. Yes, that is correct. Can you tell me, hold on, let me set up my little paint situation over here. Can you tell me how you got it?
So for this question, I set it up as negative mx plus 9 equals 0, and I subtracted 9 from both sides to get negative mx equals negative 9. So since it says that x equals 3 over 2, I changed it to negative m times 3 over 2 equals negative 9. And in order to get rid of the 3 over 2, I multiplied it by its reciprocal 2/3. So once I did that, it gave me negative m equals negative 6. And so once you divide by negative 1, you get m equals 6.
Perfect. And then you, awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I like that here you went ahead and multiplied by the reciprocal to get rid of 3 over 2. One thing with dividing by fractions is that you end up multiplying by the reciprocal. And in this problem, sorry. Okay. In this problem, it says, in the equation above, m is a constant, which means it doesn't change. If the equation has the solutions x equals negative 5 over 2 and x equals 3 over 2, what is the value of m? So again, this is similar to the last question we did. We know that if we have parentheses one number, 2x plus 5 represents a number, and then parentheses negative mx plus 9, that represents another number that we don't know. and those two numbers that we don't know equal 0, we know that one of them has to equal 0. So since we're trying to figure out what m is, we can go ahead and just work with negative mx plus 9 and set that equal to 0, like AS did, and how and get the correct answer like she did. So we don't even really have to be bothered with 2x plus 5. That's another thing. The more you practice, the more you'll be able to cut out the extraneous information. Now, why she used 3 over 2? I would also use 3 over 2 instead of negative 5 over 2. It's saying if the equation has the solutions x equals negative 5 over 2 and x equals 3 over 2, that means they're both right. They're both solutions to the above equation. So pick the smaller number and the one that doesn't have a negative. So you don't have to be bothered with all that. So to get this answer correct quickly, if you used negative 5 over 2 and substituted x for that, you would still get the right answer, but it's just easier to work with a number that's not negative and it's also slightly smaller. So I also think that the x equals negative 5 over 2 might be tempting to use if you don't realize that 2x plus 5 is kind of not needed. So that's one way they might try to trick you. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to write this really quick. Mx plus 9 equals 0. That is a 0. Oh, it looks crazy. Kind of like a Power Ranger looking to the side. Anyway, so we said we were going to use 3 over 2 as x. That's negative m times 3 over 2. I'm just redoing this slightly differently, but mostly the same as AS did. Just to show another way you could do it, because everyone has different things that they're comfortable with doing. And AS went ahead and multiplied by the reciprocal of 3 over 2, which is 2 over 3. I'm going to do it slightly longer way. So we know in order to isolate this variable or to get it to one side of the equal sign, we have to undo what's being done to it. So what's being done here is it's being multiplied by 3 over 2. So we have to divide this whole side by 3 over 2 to undo that. So if we do that to one side of the equal sign, then we have to do it oops, sorry, I skipped a step, my bad. I was like, what am I doing? Sorry. Before you get there, subtract by 9. Let me rewind just a smidge. I was focused on doing that. I wanted to show that. My bad. So the logic still applies. You want to undo, you were trying to isolate this variable or get it to be by itself on one side of the equal sign. So you have to undo what's being done to it. So outside of it being multiplied to 3 over 2, it's that whole unit is being added to 9. So we can do the opposite of adding 9, which is subtracting 9. So then that becomes negative 9. And then we have negative m times 3 over 2. And then we divide by 3 over 2 because we're multiplying by 3 over 2. This is mainly the thing I wanted to show. If you're dividing by a fraction, what you can do, that is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. Reciprocal is just you flip what's in the numerator and the denominator. So negative 9 over 3 over 2 is the same as -9 times 2 over 3. We have -9 times 2 over 3. Of course, not -9 is the same as 9 over 1. I just do that to have so you can look at two fractions. You don't have to, of course. 3 goes into 9. So then you have -3 times 2, -6. And since we got rid of this up here, equals -m. I just wanted to show that little part of the, in case anyone was confused about that. So we are at time, but we did start a little late because we were waiting on people and getting set up and stuff. So I will continue on for a couple more minutes so you guys can get your time in. Oh my goodness, I think I put something in the header. Sorry if it looks jumbled. Okay, what are the, okay, that's the one we just did. So yes, the answer is m equals 6. M equals 6. So we have just looking at what we have left to do. Let's do, that one's confusing. Sorry, I had accidentally put that in the header. All right, bye, Alicia. See you next week. Thanks for coming. So we can do like, let's say we'll do like one more and then we'll save the rest for next week, which we only have 2 more problems. We're gonna do this one. Give you guys like a minute to read it and then I'll just ask somebody to help me out with it. So the following equation shows the height h in meters above the ground of a football t seconds after a particular kick. H equals 0.3 plus 5.5 t minus 4.9 t squared. What was the height of the football at the moment of the kick? So, Juliana, I didn't call on you yet, right?
No.
Okay, can you help me? You're the next one I haven't asked.
I did not know this one,
We can
but
work it out.
I don't really know. But I thought it was 0.3, but I really think it's wrong.
Well, tell me why do you think it's 0.3? Walk me through it.
I was thinking of it as like the slope intercept, but this isn't slope intercept, so I don't really know.
Well, how do you know it's not slope intercept? Well, just whatever you this is a good example. Whatever you think you can work with, just start with what you have. So just walk me through. I'm going to try to write down what you say.
I think, yeah, this is quadratic since there is a, it's like ax squared plus bx plus c.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then it said, wait, let me go to the question. It's asking for the, and then the t stands for seconds. So can we like plug in 1 for t?
1 for t?
Because it said the moment of the kick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying, but wait 1 second though. The following equation shows the height in h. So this whole equation, h equals 0.3 plus 5.5 t minus 4.9 t squared, that is the height of the ball, right? So at the moment of a kick, where is the ball?
The
Like
ground.
right at the moment. Sorry?
The ground.
Right. So
So
if
0.
yeah, so what would be 0?
T.
T. So let's plug, I'm going to rewrite it real quick. So we're putting 0 into where t is, right?
Oh yeah, so it would be 0.3.
Yep. So you were right, actually. 0.3 meters.
Wait, but we did 0 squared, so wouldn't that be 1 or no?
What's 0 times 0?
It's 0.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
0 times 4.9. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I skipped that step. Usually, for time's sake, usually I would say to write everything out for math. I mean, even when I have to do my own like math stuff, I write everything out. And by that I mean, after you change one thing, rewrite everything else. Oh, I meant that as a minus, sorry.
Excuse me, miss?
Yes.
So the answer is 0.3 then?
Yeah, it is 0.3 meters.
Okay.
Do you understand why, or do you have a question on that?
Oh no, I'm just I don't know, like because when you say like moment of the kick,
Mm-hmm.
isn't that like some couple point seconds what after leaving the ground? I don't know, I'm not really sure.
No, I see what you're saying. These kind of this is starting to get into kind of like physics or whatever, or like
Right,
well,
exactly.
guys, yeah, if you guys start taking physics, I forgot what high school physics was. I remember college physics, and it was unfortunate, but we definitely had like kinetics and movement and stuff, and this is starting to touch on that. So the reason it's it is a little confusing because you would want to say that what was the height of the football at the moment of the kick? So you do want to pay attention to the type of be very, very particular with the wording that they're using. And I also know, I'm also familiar with this type of question. And as you do practice problems and stuff, you will also become familiar with the types of questions. So I already know when these, and this is even in college that I've noticed this type of question. When they say the moment of a kick, if they wanted you to plug in numbers, actually, they would say such and such seconds after a kick. Or because the thing is, if they wanted you to plug in numbers, they would kind of have to be direct with how many seconds after the kick. Because let's say if it's, okay, let's say the question is, what was the height of the football after the kick? Let's say that's the question. What was the height of the football after the kick? Okay, well, you have this equation, h equals 0.3 plus 5.5 t minus 4.9 t squared. If they want us to tell them what the height of the football after the kick, they're going to have to give us a number for t, to plug in for t, because we don't know if it's 1 or 2 or 3 seconds after the kick. That's one clue to let you know. These type of questions always confuse me though, honestly. No problem, Juliana. Thank you. See you next week. They always confuse me, honestly. But just picture for this, like with physics, other type of physics stuff too, picture in your mind exactly what's happening, and you can start to kind of input your own, like yourself doing it. Let's say you have a football in front of you and you're about to kick it. So right at the moment of the kick, meaning when the kick happens, right when the kick happens, the football is still on the ground.
Exactly.
I'm sorry?
I said it right.
Great. So the football is still on the ground. So, and if you notice too, the what do you call this? Part of the question up here where it says the following equation shows the height h in meters above the ground of a football t seconds after a particular kick. So it says t seconds after a kick. The question is asking what was the height of the ball at the moment of the kick. So you only use t, you're only going to use t when we're talking about after the kick. So t is irrelevant before, t is irrelevant until after the kick. Because it says up here, like at the first sentence of the question, it shows the height h in meters above the ground of a football t seconds after a particular kick. So again, the part of the equations that has t only become relevant when it's after. But the question below, I write big, sorry, I have to carry it on down here. The question is at the moment of the kick. So then t becomes irrelevant. So anything being multiplied by t is irrelevant, and you're only left with whatever was not connected to t. These type of questions are very confusing, I'm not gonna lie. You have to just kind of, I think, visualize the process of what they're explaining in the question, and also do practice problems with these. You're gonna start to become familiar with the terminology and like the type of questions they're asking. And that again is a good representation for, a good representation for becoming more familiar with the type of questions asked and what they're looking for with certain types of questions. So we're going to close up for now. We have a couple questions left. I was trying to make sure we didn't run out of questions. We can cover those next section. We can go over them briefly, kind of like we did with reading. So we're going to close out the recording with Isaac. You guys can stay back a little bit. We're going to talk about just wrap up questions. It'll take like a minute or two.
All right, guys. So thank you guys for staying and staying strong. I think the more work you do and the more you stick with it, you will start understanding the concepts. So I'll see you guys. And well, thank you, Erica. And I'll see you guys next week, same time.